Hello again. Because literally several of you demanded it, today we're going to start reading the second book in the Bushy Tale series. This one's called A Bushy Tale, The Brush Off. And it's called that because it features one of my favourite characters, Colin the Fox. So if you're all sitting comfortably, let's start with chapter 1, in which Colin tries something new. What do acorns taste like? Squish, the red squirrel, had never been asked this question before. What was even more surprising was that he was being asked the question by his friend Colin. But the most surprising thing of all was that Colin was a fox. As you already know, squirrels collect nuts and acorns and pine cones to hide away for the times when there aren't as many around. They also hide them so that they can grow into trees. But you know how when you're picking blackberries and you have to try some of the juicy fresh berries as you pick them? Squirrels do exactly the same thing when they're collecting nuts and acorns. So on this particular morning, when Squirrel and his best friend Whitetip, who lived next door, were out collecting acorns for their families, they had stopped for a minute under a tree for a snack. Whitetip had curled her tail around herself, so you could hardly make out the distinctive white tip. "I think we should just make sure these acorns are fresh," Whitetip had said. "You're right," Squish had replied. "It really wouldn't do to store them away if they aren't fresh." They'd just started nibbling at an acorn or two when Colin emerged from a thicket of bracken and sat looking curiously at the two squirrels for a minute. Then he asked the question, "What do acorns taste like?" Squish and Whitetip had to think about it. It was a very good question. What do acorns taste like? How do you describe it to someone who has never tasted one? No doubt Whitetip's father, who was known as an expert on acorns, would have been able to talk for a long time about what each acorn tasted like and which were the best trees. But the two young squirrels were a bit lost for words. "Well," Squish said, thinking carefully, "they're very sort of acorny. A bit sort of nutty, but not quite the same," Whitetip added. "That," Colin replied, "does not help at all." "It's a bit difficult to explain," Squish said. "You'd know what we meant if you'd ever eaten one." "If I'd ever eaten one, I wouldn't need to ask," was Colin's reply. "Well, why don't you try one?" Whitetip offered. "We've got plenty." She held out an acorn to Colin. "Oh no," Colin said, "they're not the sort of thing foxes eat." Squish and Whitetip didn't like to think too much about what their non-squirrel friends ate. They knew that Brian the Badger ate worms, which was a bit disgusting when you thought about it. But as long as you didn't have to watch, it wasn't too bad. But foxes eat meat, and that wasn't something the squirrels wanted to think about at all. Meat meant other animals, and it was hard to be friends with someone who wanted to eat a small animal you might have said hello to the previous day. Squish and Whitetip chose not to think about that at all. "How do you know you wouldn't like acorns if you've never tried one?" Whitetip asked Colin, still holding up the acorn. Colin sniffed the acorn suspiciously. "It doesn't smell too bad," he said. "Just try it," Whitetip suggested. "We love them." She dropped the acorn on the floor. She thought it was best when you're giving food to someone with teeth like Colin's. "Well, I might just have a taste," Colin said, sniffing the acorn again. He picked the acorn up in his teeth and started to crunch. Squish and Whitetip watched in amusement as the expression on Colin's face changed from one of suspicion to one of pleasure. He swallowed. "Do you know," he said, "that really wasn't bad at all. It's different. Do you think I could try another one just to make sure?" "You're only supposed to eat the middle bit," Whitetip explained. "Not the whole thing, shell and all." "It's crunchy," Colin told her. "Maybe you should try it." Squish laughed and threw another acorn to Colin, who gobbled it up. "So, that is what you squirrels eat all the time?" he asked. "If you like that, you should try my mum's acorn mash," Squish said. Whoops, now I've just lost the page. Hang on one moment. Technology, eh? Books are so much easier. So, This is what you squirrels eat all the time, he asked. If you like that, you should try my mum's acorn mash, Squish said. I'm not sure about mash, Colin said. I like the crunch. He tried one more acorn just to be sure, and Squish and Whitetip had one each just to keep him company. It was lucky that it was just then that Squish's mother called out to ask what was taking so long. If she hadn't, there might have been no acorns left to store. As Squish, Whitetip and Colin went their separate ways, they had no way of knowing what had begun that day. They didn't know it would lead to Colin running away from home, and that he would end up going somewhere where he had never been before. He would soon be going to the strange and dangerous world of the giant no-furs. Chapter 2, in which Colin surprises his father and spoils dinner. When Colin got home later that day, his dinner was waiting for him. The only trouble was, he didn't really feel hungry. It wasn't just that he was full after eating the acorns, but there was something about the smell of his dinner that he didn't like. Ray, his father, started eating straight away, which was also quite off-putting. Ray was not a quiet eater, and his chomping and munching made Colin feel queasy. He noticed that his father chewed the meat and tossed bones onto the floor. He always did this, leaving Viv, Colin's mum, to clean up. But now the young fox could barely look. Colin felt like he was seeing things which he had probably always been there, but which had never bothered him before. "What's wrong with your dinner?" Ray asked through a mouthful of food. "Come on, lad, eat up." Colin looked at the slab of meat in front of him and realised very clearly that he couldn't eat it. I'm not really very hungry, Dad," he said. "Oh, don't be ungrateful," Ray replied. "Your mother spent ages making that for you, now eat up." "Leave him, Ray," Colin's mother said. "It didn't take that long. He can have it later when he feels more like it." "You're too soft on him, Viv," Ray said. "You need to eat when you can. That's the fox's way. I reckon he's had a snack. Is that it, lad? Been eating between meals? Find something tasty while you were out?" "Well, I did have a couple of acorns," Colin admitted. "Acorns?" "Acorns?" Ray exploded. "I said something tasty. What do you want to go eating acorns for?" "Oh, they're nice," Colin said quietly. "Well, that's typical," Ray said. "It's what you get if you hang around with squirrels. Acorns? Forget about that and eat your meat." Colin looked at his dinner. The smell and the thought of the texture of the meat were really starting to make him feel sick. "I can't, Dad," he said. "Of course you can," his father replied. "It's easy. Chew and swallow. Spit out the bones. What's difficult about that?" To prove it, he gulped on another mouthful or two. "There you go," he said. "Leave him, Ray," Viv said again. "I don't think he's very well." "Well, of course he isn't well. He hasn't had his dinner. Look at him. He's missing all the goodness in that meat. Who in their right mind would be feeling well if all he'd had to eat was a couple of acorns? Come on, lad, eat up and he'll feel much better." But Colin had realised something important. He didn't like meat and probably never had. It's the meat, he tried to say. "There's nothing wrong with the meat," Ray argued. "It's fantastic meat. It's lovely and fresh. I hope you're not criticising this meal your mother's prepared." "It's not the meal," Colin said, feeling close to tears. "I just don't like meat." There was a stunned silence. Ray pushed the food away with his snout and fixed Colin with a look which clearly meant trouble. "You don't like meat?" he said, calmly at first. "You don't like meat? You're a fox. How can you not like meat?" "Not now, Ray," Viv said. "Not at the dinner table." "But that's the point," Ray snapped. "It's not the dinner table because this stupid boy here doesn't want his dinner. And he doesn't want it because he's decided he doesn't want to be a fox anymore." "I'm sorry, Dad," Colin said. "I just like the acorns more." "Acorns?" Ray said, nearly shouting now. "He's on about acorns again. That's the trouble when you get involved with squirrels. Let me tell you, son, you want to get away from those squirrels. Squirrels have ideas. Foxes don't have ideas. We hunt and we eat what we catch. It's simple. It's what foxes do." "Well, I don't want to do it anymore," Colin shouted back. "I hate meat and I hate hunting." "You hate hunting too? Hunting is our way. How do you expect to get food if you don't hunt?" "But I've spoken to some of the animals we hunt. I've spoken to them. I don't want to eat them." "That's the way of things. Bigger animals eat smaller animals. Animals that run fast eat animals that don't run so fast." "Deer run fast," Colin said, "but they don't eat meat." Deer, Ray replied with a dangerous smile, don't always run fast enough. Squirrels don't eat other animals, and I don't want to either, Colin said, not daring to look at his father now. And that, Ray said, is what you get for mixing outside your own kind. There was another silence. Colin could hear his father breathing through his nose, which meant he was gritting his teeth. That was not a good sign. Well, I'll tell you what, Ray said eventually. This is what we're going to do. You are going to your room for the night. You're going to think about this. You can go hungry all night if that's what you want. Then, in the morning, we're going to sit down to breakfast. And you are either going to eat it, or you can get out of here. You can go off and eat all the acorns you like. You can eat grass and leaves like the deer if you like. But you won't be doing it here because you will not be a fox anymore. Ray, Viv started. No, Ray said. Enough. Now go. Colin did as he was told and went to his room, large salty tears running down his snout. He curled up in the corner of his room and wept. Through the walls he could hear his mother's voice as she tried to calm his father down. From his father he heard nothing more. After a while he must have fallen into an uneasy sleep, because the next thing he knew, beams of pink sunlight were breaking into his room. It was dawn on Colin's last day in the woods. Come back tomorrow for part 2 of A Bushy Tale, The Brush Off. Thank you.